Hi, boys and girls. Pinwheels for Peace, week number 2. I'm going to go over all of the instructions that you need for day 2 of making your pinwheels. Step number 1, you want to gather your supplies. So the first thing you're going to need is the 4 sketches that you did last week. You want to make sure you grab that. You also want to make sure you grab your pinwheel template out of your sketchbook. And you will need a pencil, an eraser, some felt tip markers if you have them, colored pencils, and some crayons, all right? Your choice. You can have both or maybe one or the other. All right, I'll give you some time to do that. If you are going to need to do that, you might need to pause your video at this time and then join us when you're finished. All right, let's get started. The Pinwheels for Peace, which we are designing, there are 4 steps or 4 sketches that you created last week. You're going to take these 4 symbols that you made and you're going to sketch them onto your template. Notice there are 4 spaces. Notice also that when a pinwheel, it moves, it spins. So your pictures will spin as well. I'm going to start out with my peace sign and I'm going to draw it up here in the corner. Now, I'm going to do this pretty quickly. I want you to take your time. I'm just doing this to show you the steps. I will go back later and make my images look a lot nicer. So this is just sketching lightly. I'm going to draw my peace sign here very lightly so that if I mess up, I can erase. Very easy. I'm going to go on to my cup of coffee. I'm going to spin my paper. So I have my cup of coffee right down here. And I'm going to keep it very basic and simple. Again, lighter lines till you get everything sketched in there. You can always go back over it when you're finished and you're sure of what you're doing. So I have my top of my latte, and then I put a little peace sign on there. All right, I'm going to spin it again. So I'm going to go over here to this side, and I'm going to put my palette in here because I love art, and making art makes me feel peaceful. And remember, these symbols were symbols that you came up with of things that remind you of peace. You can add more on there. If you want more than 4, that's going to be fine. Go ahead and add more. 4 is basically the minimum that you're going to need for this project. All right, and then I also have family. So I'm going to take and I'm going to put on here a big heart because my family, spending time with my family makes me feel peaceful. So again, like I said, I'm going to go back in and add details later. Now, I have those basic symbols on here, but I can embellish that. I can add more. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a great big sunshine that's going to go all the way out to my edges. And then I'm going to put maybe some more patterns or designs on there. So I think what I'm going to do is create like a little frame. Now you can do this. You could create a frame. You can put lines and patterns inside. You might create a decorative background for these spots. So like for instance, maybe you want to put stripes in the background. Maybe you want to do some polka dots, a polka dot background, or maybe you want to take and you want to put some spirals. So I'm going to put some nice little spirals in here, maybe with some polka dots and streamers. And for family, I'm going to put a lot more hearts. So those are all things that make me feel peaceful. There's my sketch with my pencil. I flip it over to my other side. Now at this time, if it's hard for you to see the outline of your square, you could always cut it out today, but you don't have to. I can kind of see my lines through the paper, so I'm going to start in the middle. And for this one, I'm going to draw the beach. And I'm going to draw the beach because that's a place where I go that makes me feel peaceful. I can add other things into that, but this is, instead of just symbols, it's more of an illustration of the beach. So I'm going to start out here. I'm going to put a great big sun in the middle, just because that's going to carry over from my other side of my paper. And then I'm going to put some water and some sand and maybe even a sunset. And then inside here, I'm going to write some words that remind me of peace. I'm going to put the word love. I might put the word, I'm going to put be kind. So you could put quotes there, phrases. If you are a writer and would rather write a paragraph, that's fine too. Caring. That's part of peace, is caring and sharing. So I put those words in there. You know what? It's kind of plain. I want to add a little bit more. So I can go back in and add more to each one of these, noticing that each one of these is going to be a separate part of my pinwheel. Once you have everything sketched with your pencil, then you go back and take some markers and trace over your lines. If you don't have a lot of markers, you could use a plain black felt tip. Or if you'd like to, use different colors to trace, that's fine. So for instance, I'm going to start here with my heart. And this is why we do not want to use Sharpies. We don't want to use Sharpies because they'll bleed through to the other side of the paper. So we want to stick with just a plain old felt tip. You should be fine with that. The next thing I'm going to do after I trace over all of my lines with the marker is I'm going to begin to color in. I suggest coloring with colored pencils and crayons. That way it won't bleed through to the other side as well. Now, different things for colored pencils. Let's say I want to take and I want to color in my heart. You can, by adding different pressure to your colored pencil, you can create lights and darks or value using your colored pencil. So on this side of my heart, I want to make it nice and dark. So I could do some shading because I did put that in the directions. You could do some shading for some of you older students. Or if you want to do something a little more advanced and be challenged, you could press a little bit harder. And then as I make my way to the other side of my heart, I'm just going to ease up on the pressure that I'm adding for the heart, and it's going to lighten it. So I kind of shaded that in. Okay, can you see the difference between the dark and the light? It almost looks like the light is coming from the right-hand side. That's something you could do. You could also overlap colors. So let's say I want to take and I want to make the, let's say I want to make this bottom part bluish green. I could start out with some blue, and then I could shade with the blue. I could actually overlap a green over top. And this can be done with crayon as well. So I have the blue, and then I'm going to shade a little bit of green over top. And I want to make sure, I think I'm going to put a little bit of marker on there to separate that line from my background. So I like the idea of doing the marker first. You might find it easier to do the marker part first or after you're shading. So I have this little design there. So that's what colored pencil will do. Crayons work great too. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to color in the sun, but I want to use crayons. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to trace it. Just give myself an idea of where my lines are. This is going to help me stay inside there. I'll put some more lines in there. I think that look nicer. Okay, now I'm going to start to shade, but I'm going to use orange and yellow. So I'm going to start out with the orange, coloring in one direction. Remember, we talked about that before. We don't want to go up, down, side to side. Keep it even. And then I'm going to take my yellow and I'm going to overlap. So overlapping colors is another way of adding color. I want to see everybody color the front and the back. These will be visible from both sides when we put them outside to spin. So let's spread some color and cheer, add lots of color. This is all that you need to do for week 2. You do not need to cut this out or assemble it. Next week, there will be another video, and we together will be assembling our pinwheels and taking pictures. I'm finished with my sketches. I have them transferred onto my paper with pencil, front and back. I'm tracing with a felt tip, if I have it. I'm using colored pencils and crayons to shade front and back. And then I'm going to put this inside my sketchbook until next art class. Don't forget, share with me how you're doing. Take a picture with your iPad. You don't have to do both sides of your pinwheel. Take a picture of one side and submit it in discussions for me so I can see what you're doing. If you have any questions, refer to my page. The step-by-step of taking pictures is at the bottom of the page. I hope everybody has a great art class and has a great week. Take care, guys.